Hey, welcome to Pixelcraft Season 5. When I started this season, I declared myself the King of Atlantis and claimed a pretty big chunk of ocean with no land for 400 blocks away in every direction, and it's been kind of fun. Turns out there's a lot of perks to living in the ocean and mining in the ocean. It turns out no hostile mobs spawn underwater and caves. And with conduits, you can see just fine, mine just fine, and breathe just fine. In fact, here is my central conduit. I've got a few more. We'll talk about that in a little bit. This ocean monument, which is hollowed out, was kind of functionally my base for the first part of the season. Now it just has, elevator shafts and a couple chests of ink and a creaking heart that I put together when that update came out. This is my Guardian farm. It's got a few tweaks compared to other Guardian farms you might have seen, but ultimately it's the same basic mechanics as every Bedrock single dimension Guardian farm, and it generates a crap ton of XP and a ton of items. I've divided it up in order to sort of handle those items a little more easily into 8 different sections, which each have their own crafting streams up from them. And I have those sort of proportions, so they create blocks in proportions that I like to use to build. So that's my basic strategies: make a farm that makes blocks, and then pretty much build like I'm in creative mode for the rest of the season. And that's my item separator. It throws away the excess items and filters the XP going upstairs. Over there is my ink farm. You can see I'm kind of in a fairly large sort of room here. It really is just the platform that the palace is sitting on top of. It's 260 blocks across. 261, I suppose, technically. Let's go up to the first floor. This is the first floor of the actual palace. Up here is what I call the altar of XP. This is where all the XP gets filtered. Water pushes it in this direction to try and get it to fuse into one orb. Keeps us from having too many entities clogging up the server. It's otherwise pretty open up here. I sort of treat this as a public XP farm for other people to kind of go and mend their gear every once in a while. Only totally works when I'm online, although a lot of times there's XP left over when I log off, so it works a little bit when I'm offline, at least the first time. Up here on the second floor, we've got my lava farm. 4 of each kind of furnace and chests coming in and out of it, so I can kind of set and forget large amounts of items if I want to smelt or cook or whatever. Second floor is also my storage, and then this sort of second and a half balcony floor. This is kind of a convenient way to come in if I'm flying from outside and want to put away stuff. This is the floor I want to go to, so I'll fly into that balcony. It's kind of handy that way. Going up to the third floor. The third floor is my cartography floor. Now, most people don't really need a cartography floor, and that's fair. You'll notice I like to carry around a level 4 map just because I like to see myself around, and also it's fun to be able to stalk people that are on the server if they're nearby, or see when they're coming to visit. There's the map of my thing. So it's sort of tiled up level 0 maps, and let's pause for a second and take a look at this thing. You'll notice there's kind of a 3-section thing going on: center with the palace, middle ring with a garden, and 7 empty sections, and then an outer ring with bigger builds with 6 empty sections. Underneath that, there's also 19 total conduits. Buried underneath, I found that you can actually get quite a bit of depth coverage with the conduits without losing too much of the distance coverage. And these 19 conduits cover quite a bit of space, and pretty consistently down to at least negative 20Y. So if you're swimming around in the aquifers and trying to mine, you're pretty safe for quite a distance. And of course, some places even deeper if you're closer to the conduit. Out here, you're sort of on the roof too. There's kind of a balcony coming out. Let's see. If we go to the 4th floor, there's no actual stairs going to the 4th floor. And the reason for that is it has villagers. And when I was making the villagers, I didn't want them to kind of sneak down. It also keeps the cats in place, because there's lots of cats. You can kind of hear them there. But yeah, I don't have a huge villager trading system here, but got enough to be useful. A couple clerics, because clerics trade for some stuff that's hard to get in significant quantities in the normal ways. Uh, got 8 librarians. Don't have a ton of enchantments, but I at least have all the trident enchantments, which seems like the bare minimum for the King of Atlantis to have. And a couple other things come from there. Plus, they can convert ink into emeralds. And then I've got 8 of various, toolsmiths, weaponsmiths, armorers. I've re-rolled their things so that they're at least somewhat useful. The maximum enchantment levels for their diamond gear isn't amazing, but if you fuse them together a few times, then they can be pretty close to optimal. Here's my little trident enchanting zone, which I feel like I've got to be the trident guy if I'm the Atlantis dude. Now let's go up to the 5th floor, which is kind of the roof, but it does have an indoor portion, just the elevators go outside. Here's my bedroom. It's got a bed. Not a whole lot else, although, vaulted ceilings, I suppose. Something to notice, we've got this cascading waterfall coming off of the roof here, and also these kind of stylized minarets with waterfalls coming down them on the diagonal side here. Kind of a fun idea I had. The wavy things gave me kind of water vibes. Felt very Atlantean. On the outside, you can see tridents. We'll probably notice that in a little bit. Let's try and get balanced here in the center. And you can see I claimed quite a large space for this Atlantis project. I'm not sure how I'm going to fill all of this, but I'll do as well as I can. Hopefully I can get a little bit of help recruited to take over some of these sections. But it's a 400 block radius, so 800 blocks across, and you can see it all from the outside if your render distance is over 25. Let's get down here. This is a Christmas tree inspired fountain I made in December. You'll notice anywhere we have shallow water in an ocean base is sort of accidentally an ink farm. I also have a more deliberate ink farm over on this side, where I've got glass and so that you don't fall into it, and then just magma blocks and water. One layer of water. Squid spawn in there, they die. There's you can kind of hear the mine carts underneath. Mine carts will pick it up, put it in some hoppers, and that all gets funneled into my dark prismarine crafting stream, and the excess gets stored, and I've got way too much of it. I'll probably have to start throwing it away again soon. For some reason, they're all spawning in the fountain right now instead of in the farm, which is sort of silly, but not a big deal. It does actually produce quite a bit of ink normally. Let's go over here to the base of this tower where we've got a nice bubble elevator. At the top, there's kind of a pool of water that makes it so you can riptide in any direction relatively easily. And there's also a safe way to fall down if you actually come up here without an elytra, which would be catastrophic otherwise. We want to fall out of here. They're quite tall. Let's take a little bit to look at the palace. Maybe, there you go, turn off the HUD. Let's turn on RTX too. Everything looks a little better in RTX. Look at that. Now you might be wondering where's the design inspiration, and it's this. It's based on the Sultan Ahmed Mosque in Istanbul. Instead of the one courtyard, I've got 4, one on each side. Of course, that means there's no side. So I took this element of windows that I kind of like on the side and just kind of put it above that. Pushed everything else up. I replaced the front minarets with the twisty towers that you just saw me fly between. And I replaced the rear minarets with those waterfall towers in the middle. And then I pretty much just took the whole roof, which is pretty interesting to build. It's not easy at all, but I made that the top 3 floors of the palace, which we were inside earlier. I also decided with the courtyards to make it all pillars instead of pillars on the inside and walls on the outside. It makes it feel a little more open and easier to just sort of make it look interesting on the outside. And you can fly in from the outside. Let's see, let's check out this garden for a little bit. This is inspired by the Taj Mahal garden, but I, for some reason, didn't think to put the fountain in the middle. But, the little curated bushes and the canals in the middle still kind of come from that. And I've got a little honeycomb farm in the middle there, too. It's lower than ocean level by a little bit. I don't know why I decided. Well, I know why I decided to do that, but it's way more of a hassle than it probably was worth. But it's still high enough to spawn fish, and for some reason, in shallow water, the fish like to gravitate to the sea lanterns and rotate over them. It's a fun little discovery. I'm sure somebody could turn that into a fishbone farm or something. Over here, we've got the Taj Mahal. It's not go quite so fast, so I can go up the stair module here. If you've played Minecraft with me before, you probably know that I love building the Taj Mahal. I built probably a dozen times, including, I think this is one of 4 times I built it in survival mode, at least some part of it. And I don't know, I've gotten kind of accustomed to it. I can put it up relatively fast. I mean, this building, this part of the build here took me maybe 3 weeks to put together, because I've just done it so many times. Here we're on the second floor, put 8 rooms around, kind of empty, not a whole lot going on here. Somebody could totally move into this build if they wanted to. Totally wouldn't mind. And then there's kind of a mini floor here. There's a couple extra blocks of space. It's kind of low ceilings. Maybe I should have reproportioned that to a degree. And if you go up here to the top, hey, there's another bed. It's not, I mean, I guess it's a bedroom because it has a bed in it. I just kind of put that here because when I was building on this side, it was nice to be able to go somewhere a little bit closer to sleep than the palace. Because, you know, palace is kind of far from here at some point. I guess I'll Riptide there. It'll get there eventually, but just have a little bit easier way here. If I go down here, let's turn off RTX so you can see through the glass. You can see I've got this sort of repeating pattern on each floor, going all the way to the bottom. All right, where am I? Let's see. That's the palace. I'm on the wrong side, but that's fine. There's 2 identical buildings on each side here. The one on this side is technically, they call it the Jawab. On the other side is a mosque. Mosque in the actual Taj Mahal is set up so that when you're facing into it, you're also facing Mecca, so you're facing the appropriate direction to pray. But for symmetry's sake, they put an identical building on the other side that is technically not a mosque. They called it the Jawab, which is, I think, Arabic for reflection or something like that. I did a lot of reading about the Taj Mahal the first time I built it back in the day. Very interesting place. Going up to the second floor, not a whole lot going on here. If somebody wanted to take this over, maybe add some walls somewhere in here or some other design elements, totally would be cool with that. Here in the front corners, I've got a spiral staircase going up to the roof. On top, in the original here, there was 3 domes. This one has 4 because it's sort of a different shape. Because actually this terrace that it's all built on would have been rectangular in the original build, but in this one it's kind of a wedge shape, which means it's wider on the outside or on the back of the terrace than it is in the front. And so there's room for an extra dome over here. I'll use a water bucket to get out of here. And then the mosque and Jawab also have these walls that are continuing out from them that go to these turrets at the end. Kind of a fun little element. This part I've never actually built in survival mode before, as well as the mosque actually. And let's see. Oh yeah, I've got stairs going down from here. Pop into the ocean and Riptide to the final build, which is the Raid Arena. The idea I had here, actually, this is originally inspired by just me thinking, you know, I've got these ominous baubles from earlier in the season. I don't really have a place to use them. I mean, you know, I could donate them to the local raid farm or something. I don't really want my own raid farm. But it would be nice to just be able to sort of semi-manually fight a raid without also destroying a village. And then I had the thought, well, what if I made a sort of Colosseum with a battlefield meant for fighting raids? And I thought, well, you know, the problem with that, of course, is that you wouldn't want raid mobs to spawn in the seating area. But I did a little bit of research, some reading, some testing, and determined if I have the seating area a little higher and the village kind of lowered into the water, then then they always spawn. I get them to always spawn not in the seating, but in the outer corridors where they just kind of walk in and find me from there, which is pretty handy. Then I had the idea to add these little water features here, which push them into place, make it a little bit easier to fight from a distance and easier to keep away from yourself, or you can turn them off, as you can see. There's actually 9 total buttons with different water sources connected to them. I kind of prefer to have them on when I fight. Plus, that makes all of the raid mobs when they're in the water count as aquatic mobs, because that's just how Bedrock works. And it means that impaling works extra good on them. I get the impaling damage bonus if I fight with tridents. Let's shift to some actual, some actual fighting here. You can see we've done some raid fighting here already. Some stuff left in this chest from testing it with some other players on the server. Turn on RTX and kind of see how it looks in the dark. The sea lanterns really pop it in this sort of build right when it's nighttime. All right. Here you can, I got demonstrating a little bit of the raid here. Those hoppers at the bottom will pick up some of the items that are dropped by the mobs and pipe them into some water streams that bring them up close to here, which is pretty handy. You still have to go down and get the items dropped by mobs in other parts of the thing, and they don't move super easily, so that's going to be a significant chunk of them too. Got a witch here. You see, I actually have 3 tridents in my inventory. 1 Riptide in slot 9, and then 2 loyalty tridents in slots 7 and 8, so I can alternate throwing them and get some more rapid fire going on. Makes it quite a bit more efficient. And it's both a fun activity for people and something you can do cooperatively if you want, and it gives me something to do with my ominous bottles. And there's some of the items that got piped up. Those are waiting for the. Sorry, that was kind of loud. But anyways, kind of a fun little extra design. Try to make it look good and also be functional at the same time. I also noted that this diagonal pyramid shape is particularly convenient for the way that water flows down it. And I basically made the outside parts exactly as far away as they would be to kind of fill up the rest of the water without overlapping with the water from the pyramid. And apparently invokers can still hit me way the heck up here. But with 2 tridents, they don't hit me that many times. And, of course, if you wanted to go a little deeper, closer down there, you could. But you'll take a little more damage. Stuff can sort of happen. Vexes are still a little bit of a pain in the neck if they happen to get summoned. Don't kill the invokers fast enough. That's why I've got a totem now instead of my map. Because, stuff happens when you're doing this. Anyway, that's Atlantis so far. The season started in the middle of September. It is currently, I guess, June just started, so it's been going on for about 8.5 months, of which I've been actively participating for about 7 of those. I took a month and a half off to do some stuff in another Minecraft realm. It's been kind of fun. If you're interested in anything in particular, getting a closer look, just let me know. If you're interested in helping build some of this stuff, I can let you know more about it. Otherwise, thanks for watching.